The person I had spent 6 weeks avoiding was the one whose hand ended up under my coat at 12:07 in the morning. That was the part I kept thinking about later. Not the locked rooftop door. Not the freezing rain that came after midnight. Not the fire alarm I nearly broke my neck trying to reach. It was Madison's hand, cold against my ribs because I had tucked it beneath my sweater to warm her fingers, and the fact that neither of us knew where to look while Manhattan glittered across the river like nothing in the world had gone wrong. At Nora's birthday party, Madison had barely spoken to me. I had barely spoken to her. We had perfected the kind of silence that only exists between people who know each other too well. She knew I was pretending not to watch her. I knew she was laughing too loudly because she was uncomfortable. Everyone else saw two best friends taking space after an argument. They did not know I was leaving for Seattle in 9 days. They did not know Madison had found out from someone else. And neither of us knew that before the night ended, one of us would say the word love, the other would say no, and the thing that finally saved us would not be fate at all. It would be learning how to choose each other with the door open. By 11 that night, I hated the party. Nora had rented the top floor of a converted warehouse in Williamsburg. Exposed brick, warm lamps, crowded windows, champagne, and a playlist made from songs we had danced to in college. 30 people filled the room. But I noticed only one of them. I hated it because Madison was there in a black sweater I had given her 3 Christmases earlier. I noticed that before I noticed almost anything else. She stood near the windows, with Nora and 2 women from the bakery where she worked. One hand wrapped around a glass she had not touched. Her dark hair was twisted into the loose knot she wore when she wanted to look effortless, despite having spent 20 minutes making it look effortless. She laughed at something Nora said. I knew every Madison laugh. That one was fake. It climbed too high at the end. "Stop staring," Julian said beside me. "I'm not staring. You've been looking at the same section of room for 40 seconds. I like windows. You hate windows. You once called floor-to-ceiling glass architecture for people with no fear response." I looked at him. "Do you keep a file?" "I work with you. Survival requires documentation. Julian was my co-worker, and one of the few people who knew about Seattle before Madison did." "You could talk to her," he said. "I could also swallow this champagne flute. Harder to bill insurance for the second one. She doesn't want to talk to me. She brought you ginger ale." I looked down. A bottle had appeared beside my elbow sometime during our conversation. Cold, unopened, ginger ale. Madison stood across the room, listening to Nora. She did not look at me. Champagne gave me migraines. Madison had learned that during our first year out of college, when she spent 6 hours holding a bag of frozen peas against my forehead, while insulting every life choice that had led me to a bottomless mimosa brunch. 6 weeks of silence, and she still remembered. "Coincidence?" I said. Julian made a sound that translated roughly to, "You are a moron." I ignored him. 20 minutes later, I went looking for my coat because the loft had gotten too warm. I found it hanging near the door. Inside the right pocket were a pair of black leather gloves. They were not mine. They were Madison's. I knew because she had bought them last winter after watching me spend January wearing knit gloves with a hole in the thumb. "You look like someone surviving a Dickens novel," she had said. "You bought me those terrible mittens with fox faces. Those were whimsical. Those were a hate crime." The leather pair had been hers. Good leather, lined with wool, too small for me. I slipped them on anyway. Across the room, Madison still did not look at me. That was the second thing. The third happened near 11:30. My phone was at 9% when Nora handed me a silver power bank. "Madison said you forgot yours," she admitted. "She also said you'd look at 9% and decide that was basically full." Despite myself, I smiled. 6 weeks of silence, and Madison was still planning around my bad habits. I'm leaving soon. Nora's face changed. Leaving the party? I knew what she meant. Both? Soph? Don't. You still haven't told her when your flight is. She knows I'm going. She knows because I screwed up and mentioned helping you pack. And I told you I wasn't angry. You should have been. I was too busy being angry at myself. Nora lowered her voice. She thinks you didn't trust her enough to tell her. I looked across the loft. Madison had moved near the kitchen island. Someone said something to her. She smiled politely. I knew that smile too. I didn't trust me enough, I said. Nora waited. I shook my head. Not tonight. That's what you keep saying. I picked up my purse. I need air. The rooftop door was at the end of a short stairwell beyond Nora's hallway. Technically, residents were not supposed to use the roof. Technically, someone had placed 4 plastic chairs, 3 planters, and an inflatable flamingo up there, so the rule lacked moral authority. I pushed the heavy steel door open and stepped outside. Cold hit me hard enough to make me inhale. Perfect. The city softened from the roof. Across the river, Manhattan glittered like proof that leaving one life for another was always possible. Seattle waited 9 days away. The 9-month documentary job was everything I had worked toward. Better responsibility, better credit, work that could change my career. I had applied privately, which was my right. Then I had accepted privately, which was the mistake. I told myself I needed time. The truth was simpler. I knew Madison's face would change when I told her, and I did not trust myself to survive being the person who caused that change. The rooftop door opened behind me. I knew it was Madison before I turned. Some people have footsteps you recognize even through walls. She came out carrying 2 paper cups. Of course, I said. She stopped. Excuse me? Nothing. You've said nothing to me for 6 weeks. I'm familiar with the tone. That makes 2 of us. She stared at me. I regretted it immediately. Then she held out 1 cup. Coffee. It's midnight. Decaf. Of course it was. You remember that too? Remember what? That caffeine after 8 makes me anxious. She shrugged. You become convinced every email is the beginning of a lawsuit. That happened once. You called me at 1 in the morning because a producer wrote, "Let's circle back." It was threatening punctuation. A corner of her mouth moved. Not quite a smile. I took the cup. Thanks. You're welcome. We stood there with the city between our silence. I took 1 sip. She had added cinnamon. I hated that she knew me well enough to make coffee feel like an accusation. Why are you here? I asked. Her face closed. For air. You hate cold. I contain multitudes. You followed me. That is a very flattering interpretation. Madison. She looked toward Manhattan. I thought you might leave without saying goodbye. My chest tightened. We both knew she was not talking about Nora's party. I was going to tell you. When? About Seattle? No, Sophie. About the husband and children you have hidden in Connecticut. I rubbed my forehead. I found out 9 days before Nora told you. You accepted 11 days before Nora told me. I looked at her. You know the exact date? I remember dates. You remember everything. Not everything. That sentence had weight. I was still deciding what it meant when she turned toward the door. I shouldn't have come up here. Madison. No, you wanted air. Enjoy your air. She grabbed the handle, pulled, stopped, pulled again. What? I asked. She leaned her weight backward. The handle moved. The door did not. No. I set down my coffee. What do you mean, no? I mean your heir has developed a security policy. Move. She stepped aside. I pulled the door. Nothing. I pulled harder. Nothing. I shoulder-checked it once. Madison folded her arms. That was compelling. Thank you. I didn't mean it as a compliment. I'm emotionally flexible. New development. I looked at her. She looked back. Then both of us looked away. The lock had clicked behind her when she came out. Neither of us had noticed. At 11:53 p.m., the two people in Brooklyn least willing to have an honest conversation had just been locked on a roof together. For the first time all night, Madison laughed for real. We tried everything reasonable first. We knocked, then pounded, then yelled Nora's name until I became aware that 30 people one floor below us were singing along to Mr. Brightside with the commitment of a religious ceremony. My phone showed 8% battery and no service. Madison's showed 3% and one bar that disappeared every time she tried to send a text. Why is your phone at 3%? I asked. She gave me a flat look. You are at 8. Yes, but I am irresponsible in a familiar way. I came outside for 2 minutes. You came outside to deliver a devastating speech. Her eyebrows lifted. You think I had a speech? You absolutely had a speech. I did not. You followed me with decaf coffee. That is premeditation. She turned away, but I saw the corner of her mouth move. We checked the roof. The fire escape ended below a locked maintenance cage. The neighboring building was too far to reach safely, and a narrow ladder climbed to an old emergency alarm box. Madison followed my eyes to the ladder. No, I didn't say anything. You thought something. We tried the door again. Nothing. Okay, I said. We wait. For what? Someone to notice. Who? Nora. She has hosted 6 birthday parties where she did not notice people left until the next morning. That is not encouraging. I'm cold. She said it reluctantly. Madison hated admitting physical discomfort. She could work a 10-hour shift with a fever and describe herself as a little tired. I took off my coat. No. Put it on. Sophie. You said you were cold. So are you. I have a sweater. You have a cotton sweater from a company that believes winter is conceptual. I'll survive. You are impossible. Put on the coat. She did, mostly because arguing required energy. The sleeves covered her hands. Then I noticed the scarf. Red wool. Old. Faded in 2 places. I knew it instantly. I had bought it for her when we were 22, long before either of us knew how much damage 2 people could do to each other while still loving each other. Her mother had called that day after disappearing for almost a year. Madison had said no when she asked for money, then spent the afternoon feeling guilty for having boundaries. We walked through a street fair near Washington Square until the temperature dropped. Madison was crying without making any sound, which was how she cried when she thought she had no right to. I bought the scarf from a woman selling handmade wool goods on a folding table. Madison looked at it and said, "That is offensively red." Good. You need a hostile accessory. I hate it. You hate joy. My mother hates joy. Your mother has terrible taste. That got a laugh out of her. She had kept the scarf through 4 apartments, 2 serious relationships, 1 storage unit flood, and the 18 months we barely spoke after college. I had not seen it in years. You still have that? I asked. Her fingers touched the wool automatically. I keep things. I know. You say that like it's a diagnosis. I didn't mean it that way. Sure. The cold sharpened. Madison's shoulders trembled once. Then again, without asking, She unwound the scarf from her neck and looped one end around mine. What are you doing? Sharing. You hate sharing scarves. I also hate hypothermia. Reasonable. The wool connected us awkwardly, forcing us to sit closer behind a wide metal ventilation housing that blocked most of the wind. Our shoulders touched. Neither of us commented on it. For several minutes, we stared across the river. Then I said, "You can give me the speech." Madison sighed. Fine. I had a speech. It was better before we became rooftop hostages, temporary detainees. Do you want to hear it? I nodded. Her expression changed. The humor left first. You think I'm angry because you're going to Seattle, aren't you? No. That surprised me. You stopped talking to me the day you found out. I stopped talking because I found out from Nora. That's different? Yes. She pulled the coat tighter around herself. You've wanted a job like this for years. I knew you might leave New York someday. I'm not angry that you have a life. Then what? I'm angry because you decided I was safer to exclude. I didn't. You did. I needed time. You applied in September. I didn't know I'd get it. You interviewed twice. I didn't want to make a big thing out of something uncertain. You accepted. I looked away. She continued, quieter now. You let me spend 3 weeks talking about the bakery launch in March like you were going to be there. I was trying to figure out how to tell you. And while you figured it out, I kept making plans that included you. My stomach tightened. I'm sorry. I know you are. That sounded terrible. It wasn't meant to. It sounded like something people say when sorry stopped mattering. Madison looked at me. That is sort of where I am. The honesty hurt. Good, I thought. It was supposed to. I rubbed my hands together for warmth. Madison noticed. Of course she did. Without speaking, she pulled the leather gloves from her coat pocket and held them out. Those are yours, I said. You need them. You already gave them to me downstairs. I know. Why? Her mouth tightened. Because being angry with you did not make your hands less cold. There it was again. Care without forgiveness. I took the gloves. Thank you. She nodded. My phone died at 12:03. Madison's died at 12:05 after one final text to Nora stayed marked not delivered. At 12:07, she checked the small analog watch on her wrist. Midnight +7. You announce time like a train conductor. You become pedantic after midnight. It is technically morning. You see? I smiled. She did too. It was the first smile we had shared in 6 weeks that did not come from habit or politeness. The relief of it scared me. Then I saw her flexing her fingers. Can you feel them? Yes, Madison. Mostly. How many is mostly? She did not answer. I grabbed her hands. They were freezing. Jesus, I'm fine. Stop saying that. You say it constantly. I am allowed to be a hypocrite in emergencies. This is not an emergency. You can't feel your hands. I can feel some of my hands. That sentence is not helping. I rubbed her fingers between my palms. Tingling? A little? Pain? No. I opened my sweater at the waist and guided both her hands beneath it, pressing her palms against the warm skin above my ribs. Madison's eyes went wide. Sophie. Body heat. I understand biology. Then stop making it weird. You put my hands under your clothes. Under one piece of clothing. Excellent legal defense. Your fingers are freezing. So this is medical. Extremely. Should I bill insurance? High deductible. A laugh escaped her. Then mine. For a few seconds, we were 25 again, sitting on my kitchen floor at 2 a.m. because neither of us owned enough furniture. Then the laughter faded. Her palms stayed against me. Our knees touched. The red scarf lay across both our shoulders. A few stars had appeared over Brooklyn. Madison looked up. "Maybe this was fate," she said. I turned. "What? The door. The door is fate?" "Maybe." "You don't believe in fate. I don't believe in astrology. Different scam. You once called fate nostalgia, wearing perfume. That does sound like me. You were drunk. I was still right." She kept looking at the sky. I watched her instead. "What do you mean?" A long pause. Maybe the universe got tired of us avoiding each other. The universe could have sent an email. We ignore those too. "Fair." She smiled faintly. Then her expression changed. "I was tired of being angry before I came up here." "Then why didn't you talk to me?" "Because I didn't trust myself not to ask you to stay." My heartbeat changed. Would that have been so bad? Yes. The answer came immediately. I flinched. Madison saw it. "That isn't what I mean." It sounded clear. "I mean, I don't want to be the reason you shrink your life. You wouldn't be. You don't know that." "I do." "No, Sophie, you don't." Her voice sharpened. "You have spent half your life confusing love with responsibility. You fix things until you resent being needed, and then you disappear before anyone can notice how tired you are." The words hit too close. "That's unfair. It's history. I have never resented you. You told me you couldn't be responsible for holding me together." Everything inside me went still. 11 years vanished. Plastic hospital chairs, fluorescent light, my mother crying into both hands, Daniel unconscious behind a curtain, my phone vibrating, Madison's name. I looked away. "That was different." "I know." "No, you don't." Her hands pulled away from my skin. The cold rushed into the space they left. "I know Daniel was in the hospital," she said. "You found that out later." "Yes. You didn't know when you called." "No. My brother had overdosed." "I know. My mother was asking me whether he was going to die like I had a medical degree." "I know." "No, Madison." My voice broke. "You know the facts. You don't know what it was like to be 21 and realize every adult in your family had quietly agreed you were the emergency contact for everyone's life." She did not interrupt. So I kept going. If Daniel disappeared, Mom called me. If he relapsed, she called me. If she couldn't get out of bed, she called me. If Dad sent money instead of showing up, I was supposed to explain why. I spent years thinking being loved meant standing in the middle of a crisis while everyone handed me pieces of themselves. Madison's eyes filled. "That night you called me crying, and I heard your voice, but I didn't hear you." She swallowed. "What did you hear?" "Another emergency." The shame of it still had teeth. I heard one more person saying that if she broke, I was supposed to know how to put her back together. "I never asked you to fix me. I know that now." "You hung up." "Yes." "I had just told my mother she couldn't stay with me because she was using again. She said I was cold. She said no one would stay with someone like me once they saw what I was really like." My throat closed. Madison wiped beneath one eye angrily. "Then I called the person I trusted most, and you said you couldn't hold me together. I'm sorry. I believed both of you." The roof seemed to tilt. Not physically, something worse. For years, I had understood our first estrangement as bad timing plus grief. I had not understood the exact place my words had landed. Madison continued. "I know now that you were drowning too. Therapy did wonders for my ability to understand context. But understanding why someone hurt you does not make the hurt imaginary." "No." "And you know what I did with it?" I shook my head. I became easy. That word hurt more than anger. I stopped asking you for things. I made jokes before I admitted I needed help. I made sure I always had backup plans so you would never have to feel responsible for me again. I thought about a decade of Madison saying, "Don't worry, I've got it." I thought about how proud I'd been of her independence. I wanted to be sick. And then we found our way back, she said. And I thought we were better. We were better. But some part of me still notices exits. Who leaves? Who tells me? Who lets me find out from someone else? I did the same thing to you again. You did a healthier version of it. That is not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. I covered my face with both hands. For once, I did not defend my intent. I did not explain that Seattle mattered. I did not remind her I was coming back. I just sat with the fact that I had hurt her in the shape of an old wound I already knew existed. "I'm sorry," I said finally. She looked at me. No explanation. "I'm sorry I made the decision privately and let you build plans around a version of the future I knew had changed. I'm sorry I told myself I was protecting you when I was protecting myself from your reaction." Madison's expression softened, but she did not say it was okay. Good. It wasn't. A drop of water hit the back of my hand. Then another. We both looked up. "Rain," Madison said. "In January. Climate collapse has impeccable timing. Within seconds, the drizzle turned sharp and cold. We moved toward the maintenance overhang on the far side of the roof. The tar surface grew slick under our shoes. "Slow down," I said. "I am going slow. You're speed-walking angrily. I have a natural pace. You have spiteful momentum." She looked back to say something. Her right foot slid. Everything happened at once. Her body twisted. Her left hand reached for empty air. I lunged. My fingers caught the back of my coat around her shoulders. She went down hard on one knee, her other ankle folding underneath her. Her cry cut through me. "Madison." "I'm fine." "No, you are done saying that tonight." I knelt beside her. Rain soaked through my sweater almost immediately. "Where?" "Ankle. Which one?" "Right. Can you move your toes?" She did. "Can you put weight on it?" "I can try." "No, you just asked. I changed my mind." I touched carefully around the outside of the joint. She inhaled sharply. "Sorry, not your fault." I looked at the ladder. The red alarm box sat above the elevator housing. Madison followed my gaze. "No." "We need someone to hear us." "No, you can't walk." "The ladder is wet," I noticed. "You hate heights. I hate urgent care bills, too. We all contain multitudes." "Sophie." I started to stand, her hand locked around my wrist. The fear in her face stopped me. Not fear of the ladder, fear of me going away from her, even 30 feet, even while she could still see me. Old wounds do not care about scale. I crouched again. "I'm not disappearing." Her grip tightened. "Don't promise something because you think I need to hear it." "I'm not." I put my other hand over hers. "I'm going to move you under that overhang. Then I'm walking to the ladder. You will see me the whole time. I will turn around if you call my name. I will come back whether the alarm works or not." Her eyes searched my face. I let her take as long as she needed. Finally, she nodded. "Okay." I got her beneath the overhang first. Then I took off the red scarf. She caught my wrist. "What are you doing?" "Stabilizing the ankle. I have had that scarf for 11 years, and you'll have it tomorrow. You sound very sure." "I am." I folded a broken piece of cedar from a planter against the side of her ankle and wrapped the scarf around it carefully. "Too tight?" "No. Tell me if your toes go numb." "You are alarmingly competent. Daniel had accidents." The sentence slipped out. Madison went quiet. I looked at the knot. There were a lot of things I learned how to do that I wish I hadn't needed. Her face softened. I stood. Stay here. Where exactly would I go? Excellent. We have a plan. I crossed the roof. The rain made every step louder inside my head. Halfway to the ladder, Madison called my name. I turned immediately. She was still under the overhang. Nothing had happened. She just needed to know I would turn. I lifted one hand. She lifted hers. Then I kept going. The ladder shook on the first rung. Fantastic, I muttered. What? Madison called. Nothing. Stop saying nothing. It's fine. That is your second banned phrase. I climbed. 1 rung, 2, 3. The roof dropped away beneath me. I made the mistake of looking down. Eyes up, Madison yelled. I knew that. You clearly did not. The red alarm box hung just above my reach. I climbed 1 more rung. My shoe slipped. My body jerked sideways. For 1 sick second, my right hand lost the rail. Madison screamed. I caught myself with my left arm. Pain shot through my shoulder. Sophie, I'm okay. Come down. I'm almost there. Come down. I reached up. My fingers closed around the alarm box handle. The latch had rusted shut. Of course it had. I pulled once. Nothing. Again. The metal into my palm. Then the latch snapped. Inside was a faded red lever. I pulled it. For 1 second, silence. Then a bell exploded somewhere inside the building. I laughed from pure relief. Madison covered her face. I climbed down carefully. The moment both feet hit the roof, I ran back to her. She hit me in the shoulder, not hard. Are you insane? Ow! You slipped. I recovered. You almost fell. But I didn't. You cannot do things like that. Like what? Make it impossible for me not to love you. The rain kept falling. The alarm kept ringing. The city kept moving. I stopped breathing. Madison looked as shocked as I felt. Her mouth opened, closed. She turned away. I caught her hand. What did you say? Nothing. Madison. Forget it. No. Sophie. Stop saying nothing when you mean something. Her own words from earlier landed between us. She laughed once, broken and embarrassed. Then she looked at me. How long? I asked. She did not pretend not to understand. Too long. How long? Her eyes filled. Years. My heart seemed to contract around the word. Years? Yes. You never told me. You were with Anna. That ended 4 years ago. Then I was with Claire. That ended 2 years ago. Then you told me you could never date a best friend because losing one would destroy you. I remembered saying it. A bar on Atlantic Avenue. 2 whiskeys. Madison beside me. Claire texting her from home. I had thought we were discussing Nora's disastrous attempt to date her college roommate. Madison had apparently been asking a different question. Oh, I said. Yes. Oh, I didn't know. That was the general theme. Madison. The rooftop door crashed open. Nora appeared with the building superintendent and 2 firefighters behind her. There you are. The moment shattered into blankets, questions, flashlights, and instructions. One firefighter crouched beside Madison's ankle. Another examined my shoulder and the cut across my palm. Nora kept saying, "I'm so sorry," as if she had personally installed the lock. No one noticed that my entire understanding of the last decade had changed 30 seconds earlier. Or maybe everyone noticed and was kind enough not to say anything. Madison would not look at me. I could not stop looking at her. The locked door had opened. That was when the real problem began. Madison's ankle was badly sprained, not broken. By 3 in the morning, urgent care had given her a brace, crutches, and instructions to stay off it for several days. I took her home. She objected exactly 6 times. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor of a Park Slope brownstone with no elevator. On the first landing, she nearly lost her balance. I crouched in front of her. "No, get on. I have dignity. You have 2 flights of stairs. I can climb. You can also make a terrible situation longer. Pick a hobby." She muttered something insulting and climbed onto my back. I carried her upstairs. Inside, I put ice around her ankle, found pain medication, filled a glass of water, plugged in her dead phone, and made scrambled eggs because she had not eaten since 9. "You remembered the butter," she said when I handed her the plate. "You like too much. I like the correct amount." I sat on the floor across from her. The apartment was quiet. No rain, no alarm, no locked door to blame for anything. "I love you," I said. Madison froze. There was no graceful way to continue, so I did not try. I don't know when I started calling it friendship because friendship felt safer. Maybe years ago, maybe gradually. But when you said it on the roof, nothing in me was surprised. Scared? Yes. Surprised? No. Her eyes filled. Then she said, "No." The word hit hard enough that I almost laughed from disbelief. "No, I love you too." That is traditionally followed by a different answer. "I can't do this with you right now." "Because I'm leaving?" "Partly. I can stay." "No. I could ask them to delay. That is exactly what I do not want." I stopped. Madison put down her fork. "If you give up something you worked for because we had one terrifying night, you might call it romantic now. 6 months from now, you might call it sacrifice. A year from now, you might call it my fault." I wouldn't. You don't know that. I wanted to argue. Then I understood. I was trying to make her responsible for my decision again. If she asked me to stay, I could stay for her. If she told me to go, I could leave because she told me to. Either way, I would avoid owning the choice. "I'm doing it again," I said. Madison's face softened. "Yes, I'm sorry." She nodded. I took a breath. "No, I'm sorry for the actual thing. I hid Seattle because I was afraid of your feelings, but underneath that I was afraid of mine. I decided managing your reaction was easier than trusting you with the truth. That was controlling, even if I called it protection." She looked at me for a long time. "That is the first apology you've given me that doesn't contain the phrase, 'I was just, I'm learning, I see that.' It still was not forgiveness. That mattered." I stood to leave. "Do you want me to call from Seattle?" "Yes, even if it's awkward? Especially then." At the door, she held up the red scarf, still damp and stretched from the splint. "You said I'd have it tomorrow. It is tomorrow." "Technicality. I'll buy you another." "No." Her fingers tightened around the wool. "Fix this one." "Not replace." "Fix." "I will." Before I left for Seattle, I spent 8 days repairing practical damage instead of trying to earn emotional credit. Madison's bakery, Lark, was opening in March. I had promised months earlier to photograph the menu and create the launch images. My departure would leave her without coverage. So I finished the work. Croissants at 6 in the morning, lemon tarts at 8, her rosemary honey cake, which I had mocked until I accidentally ate 3 slices. Then I hired Luis, a photographer I trusted, to cover the opening week, and paid his retainer because the gap was mine to fix. When Madison found out, she called. "You didn't have to pay. I created the problem. This is not a grand gesture, right?" "No. It is an invoice with feelings." She laughed. The day before my flight, I returned her spare apartment key. Blue thread was tied through the ring so I could distinguish it from mine. She stared at it in my palm. You've had that 7 years. I know. Why are you giving it back? Because loving you does not mean I get automatic access to your life. You can give it back someday. Or you can't. Her eyes went wet. She took the key. That hurt. I let it hurt. Then I went to Seattle. Distance did not turn us into a couple. It made us practice honesty. When Lark failed a plumbing inspection, Madison called furious. Instead of fixing it, I asked, advice? Distraction? Or do you need me to call your contractor an idiot? Third one, your contractor is an idiot. Weeks later, when a producer destroyed a cut I had spent 30 hours building, I called her instead of saying I was fine. She returned the favor. In November, she went silent for 2 days during a bakery crisis. I drafted my usual message. No worries. We can talk whenever. It looked polite. It was an exit. I deleted it. Instead, I wrote, I know you're overwhelmed, but the silence is getting inside my head. Can you tell me when you have space? She answered 12 minutes later. Tomorrow at 8. I'm overwhelmed, not disappearing. I read that sentence 3 times. In December, I came back to Brooklyn for 4 days. Madison met me at Lark after closing. She was wearing the red scarf. A thin line of blue thread crossed the tier from the rooftop. You fixed it, I said. You had it repaired. I thought you'd hate the visible stitch. I did. And? I changed my mind. She reached into her bag. For one insane second, I thought she might give me the key. She touched it, then stopped. I'm not ready. I swallowed. Okay. You're not going to ask. You'll tell me when you want to. Something in her face loosened. We ate ramen. We argued about a movie. At her stoop, she kissed my cheek. Nothing dramatic happened. That was the point. Trust was being built from boring materials, returned calls, specific apologies, boundaries respected without punishment, truth offered before certainty. In January, Madison visited Seattle. On her second night, I introduced her to a co-worker as my best friend. Later, she said, "That hurt." My instinct rose immediately. But we aren't together. What else was I supposed to say? I let the defense pass through me without speaking it. Tell me why. Because it sounded like you erased everything we admitted. You're right. I'm not asking to be called your girlfriend. I know, what are we? I thought about it. 2 people in love figuring out whether we can build something stable enough to live inside. That is terrible for introductions. Very long name tags. She laughed. Then she kissed me. Slowly. Carefully. The upstairs neighbor dropped something heavy. A bus hissed at the curb. My refrigerator made its dying animal noise. Real life kept going around the biggest moment of mine. When Madison pulled away, she whispered, I'm still not ready. I know. You're okay with that? I get to decide whether waiting is something I can choose without resenting you. And? Right now, I choose it. In April, my contract ended. I had offers in Seattle, Los Angeles, and New York. This time I called Madison before answering anyone. I'm not asking you to decide, I told her, but your life matters to the decision because you matter to me. She was quiet. Then, that is annoyingly healthy. I've become unbearable. Tragic. I chose New York, but not as a sacrifice. I negotiated a role that let me lead projects from Brooklyn and travel west once a month. The work was better suited to what I wanted next. Madison was part of the decision, not its owner. When I walked into Lark in May with 2 suitcases, she was frosting a cake. She looked up. Hi. Hi. You're early. Flight landed ahead of schedule. That happens? Apparently. She wiped her hands and reached beneath the counter. A key landed on the wood between us. Blue thread through the ring. My throat tightened. Don't make it dramatic, she said. I am physically incapable. It means I trust you in my apartment. Romance is alive. Don't ruin it. 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday night, Madison was making pasta when she said, Nora invited us to dinner Friday. I told her my girlfriend might have to work late. I stopped chopping basil. Your girlfriend? She kept stirring the sauce. Is that a problem? Does she know? Madison looked over her shoulder. She does now. I kissed her. The sauce burned slightly. We ate it anyway. The following January, snow fell outside Lark while I worked at the corner table. Madison brought me decaf coffee even though it was morning because I had already had 3 cups. She wore the red scarf. The blue repair thread was still visible. She unwound half and dropped it around my shoulders. We're indoors, I said. You're always cold. You're always controlling, correct? Outside, Brooklyn moved through the snow while the espresso machine hissed behind us. Madison leaned her head against my shoulder. Do you still think it was ridiculous? She asked. What? Fate. I looked at the scarf connecting us, at the blue thread holding together the place where it had torn, at the key beside my wallet, at the woman I had loved badly before learning how to love her honestly. I don't think the locked door was fate, no? I think it gave us an opportunity. For hypothermia? For honesty. Less exciting. More useful. She smiled. I touched the repaired seam. Fate gets too much credit. That sounds like you. The roof forced us to stop running for one night. Everything after that was choice. The calls, choice. Seattle, choice. Giving back the key, choice. Giving it to you again. I smiled, especially that. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, That ruins the romantic version. What romantic version? 2 best friends get trapped on a rooftop at midnight. One says, Maybe this was fate. They realize they're in love. Perfect ending. That would have been a terrible ending. Why? Because we weren't ready. Madison considered that. Fair. And you rejected me. I said, not yet. I suffered. You moved to Seattle and became emotionally literate. Exactly. Horrible. She laughed. Then her fingers found mine beneath the table. They were warm. I still noticed that. Maybe I always would. You know what the ending should be? I asked. What? I gestured around us. Coffee? Snow? Customers? My laptop? Her flour-dusted apron? A tray of croissants in the back that she had probably forgotten in the oven. This. Madison looked around. That's not much of an ending. No. I squeezed her hand. It's a life. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she kissed my cheek and stood. You're helping me with the croissants. I have work. You live here emotionally. That is not legally binding. Kitchen, now. I closed my laptop. Yes, chef. She walked away, wearing half the scarf. The other half slipped from my shoulders and stretched between us. For 1 second, it looked exactly like the rooftop again. Red wool connecting us across cold air. Except this time there was no locked door. No alarm. No fear that one of us would disappear if the other loosened her grip. Madison glanced back. You coming? I stood and followed. Not because fate trapped me there, because the door was open, and I chose to stay.